So I think it's there, but it's like it's not. You get that really loud voice, and then it's sort of mellow, and then you'll get a loud voice, and it's sort of mellow. But it feels like it's all there. Does that make
Hey everyone, and welcome to this bonus episode of the podcast. If you have followed the podcast for any length of time, you know that I have covered a fair amount of anime, and that is because, well, it's one of my favorite things to watch, and has been for years now. Now, I know there are those that might say, well, how can you be a Christian and watch anime and it's demonic and blah, 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 blah. Well, to that I say, I am the Christian who watches anime and is selected in the type of anime that I choose to watch, and you can be one too. Mostly because anime is the one medium of entertainment that I've seen that has so much Christian imagery and parallels than any other form of entertainment, in my opinion. Whether it's intentional or not, it's there. On top of this, did you know that there is a devotional out there for otakus? Did you know that there's two devotionals out there for anime lovers? On top of this, there is a third volume that will be coming out in just over a week. For this bonus episode, I have the pleasure of sitting down and speaking with the creators of the devotional Finding God in Anime. Both of them have been featured on the podcast previously as guests, and they share a lot of food for thought. So sit back and enjoy my discussion with author Moriah Jane and manga tuber Laura A. Grace, the two women behind this fantastic devotional series. Ladies, thank you so much for being on with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
For those of the audience who may not know who you are or have seen you on a previous episode, in about under a minute, go ahead and just tell us who you are and what you do.
I am Moriah Jane, and I am a fiction author, or at least, used to be primarily fiction author, but now I do nonfiction because we started the Anime Devotional series. So I write uh, fiction through like a Christian worldview lens, not necessarily like specifically Christian fiction, but carrying those like clean themes and keeping out content that a lot of Christians are not really wanting in their books and things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Her books are really good. I actually have one of them. I should have brought it down and could have did a promo there, but yeah, I'm Laura, and I used to do writing, but now manga. I met manga, and manga just took over my life. Jesus family manga is pretty much my whole worldview. So I'm very passionate about all three, especially manga when it comes to YouTubing. And similar to Mariah, having that goal, that passion to share stories, though I'm not writing these, I'm sharing other people's stories with other believers and just hopefully, in my case, showing God through these stories of how God is speaking to me using these fictional characters, and really love experiencing new stories, seeing which is my latest obsession, though haiku always has my heart.
That's fantastic. And while we're on the subject, let's go ahead and get to it. Both of you are the creators of Finding God in Anime, and this is a joint picture, which each of you contributes something different. Laura, as you said, not necessarily writing, but putting it together, doing the cover. And Mariah is an author, and Laura is a YouTuber. From different perspectives, can you tell us what spawned and brought about this devotional?
I was trying to think about that the other day, and I just remember us both chatting on Facebook and like DMs and Messenger. And us just both saying, man, it'd be so cool if somebody had that. And I think we just sort of were like, wonder if we did it. And it was sort of scary at first, but it was a really incredible process. I mean, I don't know, do you remember what it maybe pinpointed or, like, what was that moment for us,
Yeah,
Mariah?
I think that was just kind of it where we just kinda came together and we both kind of had that idea of, like, we love, like, anime and manga so much that we're just like, we wanna be able to, like, use this in a Christian worldview lens, and we were just kinda discussing that of, like, I think I remember I specifically said that I was like, "Well, we could do a devotional, but, like, I can't write all of them myself because, like, I can maybe, like, write 1 or 2 and then my brain would just go kaput." And Laura I think Laura was the one who had the idea of, like, what if we had, like, multiple people, like, submitting to the devotional, and then it wouldn't hinge entirely on just the 2 of us, and then it would be a lot less work in that regard, and we could just kinda build a little community around it.
You're right, and that was really incredible how people really came and, like, had the same heart mission, like, yeah, like, let's do it of bridging that gap because it between that God can use anime and Christians loving anime, if that makes sense, and it coming together, that it can come together.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, we own both volumes 1 and 2, and both of them had been a blessing, just different contributors. And because normally for devotionals that I've read, it's like from one perspective or at the most two, and getting all these different perspectives on things like redemption, grace, sacrifice, and relating them to something that we all love, which is anime. I don't think there's any other publication out there. That is, like, binded together like that.
Mhm.
When talking about anime, I know that in America, most of us, our first exposure to anime was, or manga, was either through Toonami, it was through the home video releases, that small section in the bookstore that had manga or anime in it. Can you both tell us about your first introduction to anime or manga and how your tastes have changed over time and perhaps even due to this devotional?
I would say, for me, when like growing up as a kid, I feel like we kind of like a lot of people got exposed to it like young without really realizing it, you know, with shows like, you know, Pokemon and like I remember Beyblade being like really popular. When I was a kid, we used to always go to the library, and I remember the library had the show Zoids on it. And I think my older brother was the first one who actually rented it, but then I got like super into it. So I feel like that was, like, kind of my technical first anime that I watched, but what actually, like, really got me into anime was actually, Tokyo Mew Mew, which was when I was in, like, middle school. Yeah, I saw that and I was just really drawn to that, the dynamic of, like, female superheroes who can be, like, completely feminine, you know, like, they're fighting with, like, fuzzy heart rings and makeup sticks and stuff, and I really liked that. So, which I think is hilarious because I know Laura and I have had this conversation before of, like, you know, that was my first anime and that was my taste, but, like, nowadays when I'm talking about anime, I'm talking about, like, Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia and stuff, which is, like, the exact opposite end of the spectrum.
Yes, I can resonate so much with that, especially what you said at the beginning. I feel like I was that kind of person or kid that, like, I love Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z, like, hands down, that was my thing growing up, and vividly remember watching Sailor Moon, like, every day after school, but, like, I had no idea that was it. None, and I never seen manga out in stores, so we didn't go to the bookstores like that because I didn't love reading as a kid the same way, but even when I got my very first the Sailor Moon manga, wasn't even volume 1, and I got it because I thought the cover was pretty, and I remember loving the art, but having no kind of understanding, like, this is manga, like, this is something else. So, when you were sharing about that, it really, like I like, that was me. That was me. So, um, also, yeah, you sharing too of, like, how different your taste is. I mean, I don't really feel like I guess I think of my conception as a kid of Sailor Moon was sparkly, bubbles, bright, the good girl always wins, you know, takes out the villains. And now, yeah, it's when it comes to anime, I still gravitate towards non-romantic series, which hurts my shoujo manga loving heart very much. And having all the action, like yes, like Demon Slayer, One Piece, so I haven't caught up on it, and I feel like this really good too. And My Hero Academia, yeah, that was. I sort of feel like that was as an adult when I got back into anime and actually knew like, hey, this is anime. I feel it was the ones that come to vividly to mind is One Punch Man, My Hero Academia, and Kenshin, the original Kenshin. I feel like that was when I was like, oh, this is anime. And this is a really cool thing. So yeah, man, that's like a trip down memory lane. Sorry, I was like, wow. Like okay,
Sorry.
that was so long.
Yeah, in my experience, my introduction to anime, Moriah, as you said, it started out with, Pokemon and Beyblade, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was another one, and then, of course, Dragon Ball Z. And then you get into more of these anime that have more depth to them, like Demon
Mhm.
Slayer or Sword Art Online. Um, Rebecca surprised me the other night, so I just want to watch a cozy. I'm like, you almost never want to watch a cozy anime. So we started Laid That Camp
Mhm.
the other night, which is so much fun. It's a show. It's like nothing's happening, but in a good way.
Yes. Super relaxing. I feel like those shows are getting, like, more and more popular too. There's just a
Yeah,
lot more shows where it's just like, nothing stressful happens, it's just, like, relaxing, and I feel like with those shows, you kind of get to, like, enjoy the artwork more too, because there's not, like, anything specific you have to pay attention to, you can just kinda relax and
right.
watch what's going on, and, the subtitles aren't going a mile a minute on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, and I think it's a form of like just escape from like reality because in today's society, like everything's moving so fast, 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 fast,
Yes.
and you all need like just the time to like
Mhm.
breathe and just chill out for an hour or so.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Agreed. Mm.
So going right along with this is a devotional, so it has a lot of Christian themes, biblical references. I know when I was growing up in the Pentecostal and hyper charismatic church movement, like anything that wasn't like directly tailored to Christianity or had like a Bible verse included in it, or it's just very squeaky clean, it was very demonized. So concerning the church and anime, I think it's a bit more accepted now than it was back
Mhm.
then. But do you think that there is still a stigma that the church has against anime when we think about things like, harems, fan service, stuff like that?
Mhm.
I would definitely say yes. It's probably been about a few months now, but my grandma actually came to me asking me questions. And she said that somebody in her direct group that she's involved in on Wednesday nights had said that anime is evil. And we had a conversation, and praise God I wasn't there because I was really triggered because manga's fine, but anime's bad. That's a whole other can of worms. My poor grandma's like, I think it's time for me to go.
No.
So
Oh, man.
yeah, so I definitely feel like there's a stigma that's definitely for sure there. And I feel growing up it was like you just didn't talk about it. While now it feels in my experience, I definitely have seen more Christians and Moriah is a wonderful example of that love God and love anime and that you can see like, hey, you can still love this thing that you're passionate about, despite that there have been people claiming to be Christians in the community saying no, that you were sinning. And I mean, I even thought when I read my first manga that I actively knew was manga, I was terrified. My parents found out that I was going to go to hell for it. I also grew up in a Pentecostal background, or at least in middle school. But it's like now it's, I don't know if it's more prevalent, but it definitely feels like the voices, if they are against it, are very, very loud. I don't know how much I should say, but actually, a team I'm part of with something unrelated, we got exposed and we were called out to uh, nothing nasty, but it was definitely like, you need to repent. You were doing something. So I think it's there, but it's like, it's not, you get that really loud voice and then it's sort of mellow. And then you'll get a loud voice and it's sort of mellow, but it feels like it's all there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a new podcast that I just found out or started listening to that goes along with this. It's called Grace Escape, and it's by this couple who are very strong Christians, but they left the Pentecostal movement or the UPC, whatever you want to call it. due to stuff like this, a lot of fear mongering. You're going to hell if you do this. And it's like the little things.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I would definitely agree. I don't feel like I've experienced it, like, quite as much, but, I've definitely, like, had conversations, with people where they've, asked questions about, how how you're supposed to, like, view anime, like, as a Christian just because there are, like, even within the good shows, like, not, like, everything is, like, absolutely perfect, sometimes there
Right.
are, like, the beach episodes and stuff like that. So I think there is definitely, still a lot out there, and
Yeah.
maybe even a little bit more so now that anime is just kind of like not a niche hobby, it's just everywhere now. But I definitely agree with what Laura said. I think it's just kind of like, something pops up every once in a while and it comes back down again and it comes up and down again and just kind of that back and forth where I think there is still that uh like, arguments, I guess, going back and forth between the 2 sides of the opinions.
Yeah. Beautifully said. And when we're talking about when we had like disagreements, like even as followers of Christ for like anime, we're not always going to agree on something because I fully believe guard your own heart. Is that if there is something that convicts you in a show that makes you leery of watching it, then don't watch it. That's fine. But don't come at another person who is also, that is being led by the Holy Spirit, is a Christian, brother and sister in Christ, and say, hey, this convicted me. It should convict you in the same way.
Mhm.
Because that's not reality. We all live by different convictions. So, for example, I may watch, something like Demon Slayer, like you mentioned, Laura, and another person said, well, I don't watch anything with the um, word demon in it, or like Exorcist or whatever. And when you're coming into anime titles or language, in Japan, a demon isn't like a demon we think here in the West, in the US.
Yeah.
And like you had mentioned, is it yokai? Is it certainly another type of, even the word devil has a different connotation.
Mhm.
Going along with the previous question, of what we've been talking about, what are some common misconceptions that you hear from others, even other believers, who don't watch anime or have very limited knowledge when they say something like, how can you call yourself a Christian and watch X or whatever?
I think the most, like, common one that I've probably heard with, anime is, people who aren't familiar with anime, immediately assume that's all, like, pornography or something like that, and they immediately assume that, like, if you watch any form of it, then, you're watching, pornography or, you're indulging in those terrible things or, even, like, nowadays where there's so many shows, that have, like, the word, like, demon in the title, like, no matter how it's being translated, people are like, "Oh, it's gotta be, like, a dark and terrible show," you know? So I think that, that misconception is probably one of the most common ones, at least that, like, I've come across with a lot of the shows where I think a lot of people can agree who watch anime that, like, looking at, like, the splash art of the show or even just what it's about isn't always what the show is, like, really about. Because when you actually sit down and watch it, it can be, like, so different than what it's actually, like, perceived to be.
Yeah. Or like too, to add to that, I would say like that just because a single show's popular, take like Chainsaw Man or My Dress Up Darling, one for gore, one for sexual themes. That doesn't mean that's every single anime. And and if that's all you're being exposed to, even if it's just sort of like through social media and you just see a random ad or you see a random cover, it it's easy to think like, well, that is everything. I don't want anything to deal with this because I agree. Like I feel the same way, Mariah. And I would say the one that I've heard is it's just evil. It's just satanic. It's from the devil, like that route. And I don't know how all of that, like if you're reading just a romance that just has no magical stuff in it, like, I mean, now it's like, well, why did I sort of believe some of those things when it's like, uh, just because it's from another country or it's foreign to us and that just has different things. But yeah, I I suck at that so much more. After I'm just like, man, I think of old things that have been said to me, like, yeah, yeah.
Yes. And it is really frustrating, like, when people come up to you with that kind of personality, like, they immediately just, like, judge you on the spot based on, like, the characters on your shirt or something like that, and you're like, "No, it's not really like that at all." Like, can you imagine just, like, someone walking up to you and being like, "Oh, you must watch pornography," and, like, your shirt is, like, Snow White with the red hair or something like that, you know? And you're just like, "This is, like, the most wholesome show, like, ever. Like, what are you talking about?"
For real, for real.
Yeah, and there are a lot of shows that are they're over the top. Um, just as an example, there is no reason in an anime to give a middle school girl huge assets, I'll say.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Yes.
Yes.
and there's also no reason to make a perfectly wholesome anime and have all the sexual innuendo in
Mhm.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that's very generic, that fits like a good percentage of anime out there.
It does.
But there is also animes like Free Ren, Demon Slayer,
Mhm.
and oh gosh, Witch Watch is one that we've started viewing that's very wholesome as
Mhm.
well. And again, people say, "Oh, you're watching a show about witches," and I'll say, "Okay, first of all, it's a witch singular."
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but I mean, it's very wholesome. But again, that doesn't convict me like it would convict somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
So getting into this third installment with this devotional again, finally got an anime, volume number 3. Did you ever think that there would be a third volume?
No.
Definitely not.
No.
You're yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that sounds odd.
We did not think it would get this far. I remember just, like I feel like when we put it together, we were like, "We don't even know if we're gonna make it through volume 1," you know? Like, it was just very
Yes.
much a
Yeah.
fun project, and so, I mean, I think volume 2 was even, like, a really huge surprise, and it's just kind of I remember, like, after we started seeing, like, how much, popularity was coming back with the 2nd volume, I remember texting Laura being like, "We gotta take this, like, more seriously, like, let's start making, like, a brand and, trying to be more professional about it because people are actually, like, really liking this," and I think when we first went into the project, we were just like, "Oh, maybe, like, 5 or 6 people will buy it and think it's fun," and then, it'll have its run, and then it'll be over, and then it just kind of just
Mm.
boom.
Yeah. Yeah. That really does wrap it up. I mean, it was I mean, obviously, when you start something like this or any new project, you're hoping that it's met with success and people excited just like how you are. And it really was surprising of just how much it resonated with people that it was not just us. And it was really awesome in that sense of like, oh, we're not alone. Somebody else feels the same way, just how we do. And even seeing some friends that I know that are not believers were like, hey, I want to support you. And I read it and just see like how God could even use the devotional in that sense as well as an introduction. Because, some people may not necessarily want to have a one on one conversation about God and about faith, but get your favorite anime involved. And okay, they're it's like they are so much more open to what you have to say because they're like, you love the same character. I want to hear or be interested in seeing what you had, some kind of spiritual takeaway when it's a show for like example for haiku, it's just volleyball. How are you having any kind of spiritual takeaway from something as simple as that when it's just a sports show?
And I think one of the most, like, common comments that we've, seen, like, in book reviews and just, like, among, like, peers and, messages that we get is a lot of people saying, "I thought that I was, like, the only" like, it felt like I was the only Christian who liked anime or, like, even people who are like, "We wanna have deeper conversations about it," because they struggle with those convictions a, where they're in settings where everyone else is saying, "Oh, anime is evil and terrible," and, the person who's watching it is like, "But there's all these great shows," and, they're having these, experiences where they're seeing, God through their favorite shows, but they're getting so much noise from the other side that they're like, "Maybe it's just me and maybe it is wrong," and then they stumble across the devotional. And now it's not just like, me and Laura wrote it. It's like written by like tons of different authors and writers. And like we have like cosplayers who've been writing pieces and stuff. And they're all just people all across all walks of life showing like, no, like anime isn't evil. Like here's the good in it, and here's how you can take it from a Christian perspective.
There's definitely a huge market out there for it as anime is becoming more mainstream. Or like you mentioned, you have friends that are not necessarily of the Christian faith or believers, but they want to support this good work and they actually are enjoying like some of the things that they've read in it.
Definitely.
Um, so with this third installment, can you give us a sneak peek or a glimpse or tell us about the few devotionals that are included and maybe a few of the contributors as well?
Also, I was really excited that we had a lot of shoujo anime. I feel like shoujo anime, especially as me and Mariah are shoujo fans, so shoujo tends to get the brunt end of the stick, and so it was very exciting to see pieces on My Happy Marriage, Kimi ni Todoke. I mean, I wrote one on Aoharu Ride, also known as Blue Spring Ride, and Natsumi Book of Friends. I mean, seeing some of these very beloved series, hopefully by the overall community, but if we're talking about manga geared, or excuse me, like shows geared towards women, that was really exciting for me and how they were talking about love. And I really loved the piece by, I'm blanking on her full last name, but Amy Lynn. She runs the Clean Fiction magazine. I loved how she talked about community todoke and miscommunication and whatnot. That manga has such a special place in my heart. Please excuse me that I have not actually watched the anime. I love the characters. So that was something that was very, really cool to see that I was very excited. And also Fruits Basket. Can't
Yes.
forget our beloved Fruits
I love
Basket.
it.
So I think that was something cool for me.
Yeah, I'd say much the same. I remember we were both really excited when we started seeing a lot of the shoujo recommendations coming in. Because I mean, we obviously want to try, like, well, I guess I would say with the devotional, we like having that balance of, there's something for the male readers, there's something for the female readers, and we like having that balance. But I felt like in a lot of the past volumes, while we did have pieces on, like Fruits Basket and Sailor Moon, they were a lot fewer and far in between compared to some of the more prominent shonen shows, like, you got like My Hero Academy and stuff. And so when we started seeing more of those, more of that balance in our recent volume of shoujo shows, but also like shows that are really popular with guys too, and I mean, and girls too, because I'm obsessed with Demon Slayer too. Just seeing that balance, but so I think definitely that. But I was also really excited to see some people starting to submit series that I would call more like hidden gem shows. Where shows that they aren't talked about as much. I definitely like added a bunch of shows to my list because they were names like Um, that I had seen in passing, but I was like, "Oh, I don't know if it's good or not, and I'm watching this over here right now, so I don't know if I have time for that." So seeing those shows and just, like, some classics, like, I know we have, a piece on, like, the original, like, Captain Harlock series from, like, I think it's, like, the '70s or '80s or something, and I thought that was really cool because I was like, that's a series that's not talked about a whole lot, but it's such a great series too, so I loved seeing just all of the different shows that we were getting, like, guy shows, girl shows, hidden gems, just, like, the full circle.
Yeah, I was talking about this. I feel like one year we had like a bunch of My Hero Academia, and then another year we had a lot of Full Metal Alchemist. And it's odd that this time I know we had at least one each. I think I'm pretty sure we had a Full Metal
We
Alchemist.
did.
Maybe we didn't,
I'm
but
pretty sure we
we did.
did.
Okay. I feel like we had at least one, but it's just interesting to see that difference. I know we had a lot of Freyren this time around, which was was funny and cool at the same time because you could definitely see some resonance that people had between them. I mean, they're different because we did talk about it. Because I even think I asked about one, or maybe it was Sakamoto Days, but it's really cool to see how things like new things are rising up, and that these hidden gems, yeah, are definitely getting some shine. Or even though I only saw, like, the last 3 episodes, but, like, Windbreaker, it was cool to see some love for that, and I understand the hype now, actually, after the devotional and then watching a little bit of it, I was like, "I get it, I get it. I'm late to the hype train, but I do get it."
Yes, love that series.
Well, I know I'm definitely looking forward to reading these entries and seeing what all these contributors have contributed to this devotional. I had such a great time speaking with these two, and they shared so much insight into the need for a devotional series like this. Finding Out an Anime will be available on July 21st on both Amazon and in Barnes& and Noble's bookstores. Also, if you've been following our social media, we are hosting a giveaway for 3 signed hard copies by both Moriah and Laura of the 3rd volume of this devotional. The giveaway ends on July 19th, Saturday at midnight Eastern Standard Time. The winners will be announced on July 21st, the same day as the devotional is released. As always, if you like this video, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and ring the bell for notifications so that you are notified every time I upload a new video. And be sure to check out the audio version of this podcast as well on your favorite podcast app. And I will see you in the next one.